My name is Dr. John Mandelman. I'm Vice President and Chief Scientist of the Aquarium's Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life, which is our research institute and scientific arm for the aquarium. Tonight's event is made possible by support from the Lowell Institute. They provide funding, have been for many years, to allow us to provide these lectures to the audience free of charge. So we're deeply in gratitude for that. The aquarium is a nonprofit organization. We're an integrated conservation organization that has protected and cared for our ocean and its animals and habitats for over 50 years. A couple housekeeping items I just want to get out of the way too. Please silence or vibrate your cell phone so that doesn't interrupt our lecture tonight. And if you need to use the restrooms, rear, top of the theater, so just take one of the walkways up around. So our organization's mission aligns phenomenally with tonight's lecture. And Danni Washington. So I just want to mention that her mission is to inspire everyone to form a deep connection to the ocean and take action to protect it, which is in such great alignment with ours. We're honored to welcome her. She's a marine biologist, ocean advocate, and gifted storyteller. So Danni grew up in Miami, where she fell in love with the warm blue waters of the Atlantic and the many natural wonders of the world. As a kid, she was inspired by the educational TV show Bill Nye the Science Guy. And today, through her work as a TV personality, author, and activist, she's inspiring a new generation of youth to become ocean advocates and science lovers. At age 21, she co-founded Big Blue and You, an ocean conservation nonprofit that offers young people opportunities to connect with the ocean and participate in youth-led ocean advocacy campaigns such as Plastic-Free Cities and Sea Youth Rise Up campaigns. You'll learn more about those tonight. Big Blue and You also works to ensure equitable access to outdoor spaces so that everyone, particularly people of color, get to experience nature. In 2016, Danni made history in the United States as the first African-American woman to host her own science television series. Her show, Explorations Nature Knows Best, is nationally syndicated on Fox and streams on Amazon. Her extensive television and documentary portfolio also includes the weekly nationally syndicated CBS series Mission Unstoppable, hosted by Miranda Cosgrove, Science, the bleep out of it for Facebook Watch, and Strange Evidence on the Science Channel. Recently, as if this wasn't all enough, recently she hosted Nova's Ocean Invaders on PBS and co-hosted Deadly Sharks of Paradise during Shark Week. And for the past 3 years, she and I were actually talking about this morning, it's fascinating stuff. She's hosted the Ocean Race Summits, which bring together activists and policymakers from around the world to create a universal declaration of ocean rights by 2030. She currently hosts the podcast, The Genius Generation, and is the author of the children's book, Bold Women in Science. Danni holds a bachelor's degree in marine biology from the University of Miami and an honorary doctorate from Unity Environmental University. And she serves on the boards of the North American Association of Environmental Education and the Pangea Sea Foundation, which I have the deep pleasure of serving on alongside of her. Please join me. Well, actually, we're gonna have a quick little video first, but then you can join me in welcoming Danni Washington.
When I'm deep underwater, I feel free. It's the ultimate freedom. There's no gravity. I can move around. I don't know what's below me, but I can go check it out. And I'm not scared. There's no fear there. It's all about exploration and finding something new. And I feel one with the ocean every time I step foot inside. Every thought is washed away, and I'm completely present in the moment. And my biggest goal is really to just share that experience with everyone and hopefully inspire them to do the same. We humans are here sharing space with all the other living organisms and beings that are here, and it's our job to take care of them and to make sure that our actions and everything that we do on a daily basis doesn't negatively impact the planet. It's really about stepping out of the way. It's about giving the planet a chance to restore itself. The ocean is resilient, and if we give it time and space, we'll see massive changes happen quickly. But there's almost 8 billion of us on this planet, and so when you multiply that by a single action, you can either see a negative impact or a positive impact. As a child, as a young Black woman, I've learned that so many women who look like me, who have similar experiences, haven't experienced the ocean like I have. And I want to see that change. When you love something, you'll protect it. And my job as a science communicator, as an ocean advocate, is to stand up and be a voice that's relatable and recognizable and inspiring so that more people will be engaged with protecting this place behind me. It's our life source. No matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, the ocean is here for us, and it gives us constantly everything that we need. Now it's time for us to give back to the ocean. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I know with the weather, you could have been so many other places, including your warm, cozy bed, but you chose to be here, so I really appreciate it. Welcome to our virtual viewers who are with us online. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, thank you, John, for the wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. I mean, the gratitude that I feel when I come into spaces like this is immense, because I know that the message of the ocean is something that goes unheard in a lot of spaces, but I'm so happy and encouraged whenever I see folks coming out to support something like this. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Steph Ruff for advocating for my participation in this lecture series. You're so awesome, appreciate you. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be here. So tonight, the topic that I'll be covering, I called it OceanSpeak because I really believe the ocean does have a voice, and the ocean is calling each and every one of us to use our own voices to communicate that message. And through my experience over the last 15 years as a science communicator and working as a TV presenter, I've seen the way that individuals and communities and collective groups can work together and create a massive wave of change within their local community and globally, just through using science that is so valuable from different scientists around the world, but also using their passion, using their knowledge, using their creative skills to bring this message to light for so many people. So as you heard in my introduction, I'm an ocean advocate, I'm a science communicator, and I've worked as a TV host in educational television for a very long time. By show of hands, how many of you in the room right now know what it means to be a science communicator? Okay, I see like 30, 40% of the room. Great, great. Are there any aspiring science communicators in the room? Raise your hand. I see one whole, I love it. 2, there we go. 3, perfect. And then how many of you in the room have no idea what science communication is all about, or this is the first time you're hearing about it? Okay. Good, so a few hands go up, great. So there's lots of opportunities here to share what it means to be a science communicator. Now, when I began after undergrad back in 2008, pursuing this path, I didn't actually know what science communicator was. It was something that just kind of came up because I knew that I had a passion for science, and I met a lot of scientists who needed support, who wanted to be able to do the outreach that they aspired to do, but didn't have time, didn't have the capacity. And that was where I felt like I could fill in that void, and that's where the journey began. And since then, we've seen lots of programs all over the world at educational institutions, as well as informal education spaces that talk about science communication in a more formal way, which is very exciting. And I've seen an uprising of a lot of science students, undergrad, graduate, postdocs, PhDs, also taking on that title because they feel compelled to share their science to unique audiences. So actually, I want to go back really quick. This photo, can I share a quick story about it? So this photo was taken back in 2018. I was shooting a segment up in, well, close to northern Florida, near Gainesville, where the University of Florida is located. And the photo was taken by a friend of mine, Jenny Adler, who is a marine ecologist. She's also a photojournalist, and she has been documenting this particular spring
for many years. And she was able to use her science to talk about the fact that this place in Florida is extremely, extremely special. Gilchrist Springs, this is a state park. It's a place where people go to enjoy the cool water in the summertime to get out of that Florida humidity. But what a lot of people failed to notice while swimming in there was that there's vegetation. And what Jenny was able to document was a change in the spread of that natural aquatic vegetation underwater in the spring over the course of a year. And because of climate change, she's able to now showcase the changes that are happening in local environments that are essential to life for so many people. Because of the superstorm Irma that happened to hit around that time, she saw a complete depletion of this vegetation, which is the bedrock for the ecosystem in that spring. Fun fact, the spring system of the Santa Fe River in that area of Florida is home to about, I think, over 36 named springs. And it's also the home to over nearly 14 species of freshwater sea turtles, which is the same amount of species of freshwater turtles that we see in the Amazon River Basin. So the biodiversity in this area of Florida is incredible. And through her photography, Jenny was able to showcase this. And this picture is really special because as a native Floridian, I know that our freshwater resources are essential. And over 90% of the freshwater we drink in Florida comes from this freshwater spring system. So protecting a place like this is very important. And I just commend Jenny as one of those scientists who is able to communicate her science through visuals, through art. And you'll hear a lot more stories similar to this tonight. So what's our playbook tonight? What I'm going to go through in the next 30 minutes, to the best of my ability, is I'll quickly do a brief introduction once again about my background and give you a little more detail. Secondly, I want to talk about some of the keys to science communication in ocean conservation. And then we'll talk about understanding the audience. And then finally, I want to showcase a few powerful examples of how different platforms around the world have used their own communication mechanisms to talk about the ocean in a really significant way. All right, so are we ready to dive in? Okay, wait. If you're ready to dive in, give me a oh yeah. Oh yeah, okay, thank you. So before we begin, I always love to do this whenever I give talks, is to just have a moment of grounding. And this next audio track is just the sound of ocean waves. And I want you to close your eyes and think about the last time you had a chance to get near the sea. I mean, we're pretty close right now, but when was the last time you went to a beach and you heard this sound? So just take the next 30 seconds to do that. Did you feel the power? I always feel the power whenever I take a second to stop and listen. Can you all tell, maybe just a few people, just yell out a singular word that maybe comes to mind when you hear the sound of the ocean? Anything, can be anything. Peace, yes. Freedom, I love that. Life. Vacation, that's a good one. What else? Beauty. What was the last one? Erosion. Oh, wow, okay, good word, yeah. Anything else? Creation. Very cool. Well, yeah, all those words and more, I definitely feel the same. And when we look at the ocean, I think this quote really encapsulates how special the ocean is to humanity, whether we realize it or not. But what Robert Ryland said is, the ocean stirs the heart, it inspires the imagination, and brings eternal joy to the soul. And from back in my early days as a youngin', the ocean was definitely that. I was lucky enough to grow up in Miami, which is a beautiful beach city, which my parents loved as well. And from when I was an infant, I was able to to go to the beach with my family and enjoy the waves and enjoy the wildlife in the area. But one of the other fun facts was that my mom worked as a corporate accountant for a cruise line. And we had the opportunity to go on cruises for free because of her job. And so from when I was born till I was about 12 years old, we would take advantage of those opportunities and go on little mini vacations on the weekend. Now, the cruise line industry obviously has its own sustainability issues that they're working through now, but at the time, that experience as a young child going out in the open ocean was life-changing. It was an opportunity to feel my place in the world and to look out on the horizon and know that the ocean felt endless and that there were so many things to understand about the ocean that we had yet to discover. And so holding on to that curiosity, that enthusiasm, and that excitement about what lived beneath the waves, I was able to then bring together this idea of, well, if I get this degree in marine biology, what next? What's the point of all the science if we don't have people listening to the science or understanding the science? And so after college, I had an idea, after emulating one of my role models, Bill Nye the Science Guy, who I grew up watching every day after school. I wanted to create an opportunity for people around the world who maybe look like me or had a similar lived experience to get a chance to connect with science too, because science is for everyone. And so with that inspiration, things manifested the way they did, but it was very random. In 2008, after graduation, I posted a random video on YouTube. Now, YouTube started in 2005, so it'd only been a few years. So at that point, YouTube was mainly cat videos and other random things that we don't even want to watch today. But because I posted that video, the gentleman in the middle there with the glasses, Rob Nelson, happened to see it. He happened to click on it and then wrote me a message on YouTube asking, would I like to audition for a new educational series for Pearson Publishing, which is based right here in Boston. And I said yes. I said yes to the audition, got the job, and over the course of 3 years, we made science videos together, over 200 videos for textbooks, which gave me a glimpse into the world of production, filmmaking, storytelling, and all the ways I could apply some skill sets to talking about science and to get kids, particularly children, excited about science as well. And since that time, I've dove into several other networks and other creative opportunities to do some storytelling on TV. And it's been a wild ride, to say the least. Not an easy journey. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, it was about feeling my way through the dark, figuring out how to get to a career path that I didn't know existed. But thanks to some wonderful people, amazing collaborators, creative folks who wanted to tell more stories about science, I've had opportunities to do so on national television. But what I love most about this job is about collaborating with others and coming up with really cool ideas on how to tell a story in a very particular way for a particular audience. The other part is being able to speak to brilliant minds. I've had the chance of interviewing so many incredible scientists around the world, not just within the ocean space, but throughout STEM, from quantum physicists to chemists to other biologists. And learning from them has forced me and inspired, not really forced me, but inspired me to continue to keep a beginner's mind about how we explore the world, how we explain how the world works. I'm a forever student, and I hope that many of you in this room are too. So let's talk about the keys of science communication and ocean conservation. I wish we had more time tonight. I wish I had a few hours with you, because then I could give you the real nitty-gritty of some of the skill sets and the tactics in being an effective science communicator, but I'll give you a quick rundown. When we talk about science, I mean, we can talk about the I can't even say the word, involving politics into science. We don't want to For me, it's not about that. It's not about opinions. It's not about making someone agree with you. It's about inspiring people. And when we look at the ocean conservation space, there are a lot of opinions in that realm and a lot of disconnect, I think, because the ocean is something that's out of sight and out of mind for many. And when we talk about the ocean, I think this idea of curiosity, exploration has to be a part of the whole message. I don't want to dive in tonight to all the horrible things that are happening to the ocean, because I'm sure many of you in the room are aware of them. From plastic pollution to overfishing to ocean acidification, there are many challenges our beautiful ocean is facing at the moment because of human behavior. But what I will say is that the ocean is abundant, and there are still so many places and ecosystems in the ocean that are thriving, that are worth working to save, working to protect. And that's what gives me the drive that I need every day to continue with this work. So whether it's seeing beautiful Pacific white-sided dolphins off the coast of California, or diving and free diving with whale sharks off the coast of Mexico, all life in the ocean is connected, and it's connected to us. And whenever I'm swimming in the ocean like this, I feel like a tiny phytoplankton just floating along, observing what's going on. But like I said before, the ocean is abundant and it's resilient as well. And this school of chevron barracuda in Papua New Guinea, this picture always reminds me about that abundance, but it also reminds me about the fact that there's so much we still have to understand about the ocean. We've barely scraped the surface. People have explored maybe 7% max of the ocean under the waves, and we still have yet to understand the last frontier on our planet. We're so concerned, many people are concerned about going to space, but hey, we have inner space right here on planet Earth. So what are some of these keys of science communication? Okay, so I'm gonna run through this. If you were an aspiring science communicator, this would be a great slide for you to snapshot, but it can be applied, these concepts can be applied to any type of SciComm, not just within the ocean space. So first of all, understanding, translating the factual science is important, the facts, looking at the data, looking at what scientists are working on. Second would be telling a compelling story about that data and results. And no matter what job or role you're in right now, all of us can be a science communicator in some capacity, if you have the passion, if you have the willingness to do the work and to do the research. Because there are so many scientists out there and scientific institutions that are just craving the opportunity to share what they're working on, but yet it's just hard because there are so many nuances with different audiences and figuring out how to talk to different groups of people. But that's where we come in. That's where individuals who have a passion for science can really step up and take the lead. I think using visuals to raise awareness is the most compelling way to communicate, and also engaging with diverse communities through dialogue, not through coming in and doing parachute science or talking about science in a way that is just yelling data at somebody. That's not how it works. It's about conversations. You also want to uplift and participate in citizen science efforts. Again, a lot of scientific institutions have opportunities to participate. As someone, you don't have to be a PhD, you don't have to be a professor, you don't have to do any of that in order to participate. It's just a willingness to volunteer, to give your time, to share your skill sets. You also want to inspire action. So on a local, regional, and global level. And how do you do that? It's by taking action yourself, being the example, and not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And as far as I'm concerned, the end goal of a lot of science communication efforts would be to change policies and change behaviors. And that can only happen if we, the people, come together and do that. We also have to identify obstacles, because there are many, to achieving some of these goals, and also reflecting on setbacks. In my lifetime, in my career, I've had a lot of setbacks, but it's about the get up. It's about turning around, figuring out why you're doing what you're doing from the jump, and then getting back to your goal and your passion. And then finally, I think especially in ocean conservation, it's important to celebrate every win, big or small. The ocean is worth working for. The ocean is here for us, and it's really time that we give back to it. So when you're doing science communication, understanding the audience, that's one of the hardest steps. And one of the ways that I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading to figure out better ways to identify an audience and to communicate with the audience comes from lots of resources, but I just featured one tonight. There's a new book out called Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg, and he outlines 4 basic rules that you should follow when you're talking to a specific audience. And again, that audience could be one person that you're having a conversation with, or it can be an auditorium full of people. But first, pay attention to what kind of conversation is happening, know the context. Second, share your goals and ask others for theirs. Third, ask others about their feelings and share your own. And to exclude emotions out of the conversation around science communication is a bit absurd, because we're emotional beings, and emotion is how you really spark change by inspiring people to take action. Because that emotional connection combined with scientific information is just, I've seen so many incredible things happen when those two are combined. And then fourth, consider if identities might be important to this discussion. And I have one edit to this from his book, but I would say not consider if, but consider that identities will be important, because we're all intersectional human beings. We all have different elements to our identities and how we relate to the world, and those things deserve to be respected. They deserve to be acknowledged. And when you're doing science communication, you also have to take that into consideration. So I believe that everyone has an audience, therefore everyone can advocate for the ocean. Once again, if it's someone that you're just talking to in your family group or your friend group, that's an audience. If you're online and you decide to use social media platforms, or you're a blogger, you're a podcaster, maybe you work in film, TV, or news, maybe you're an artist and you like to participate in art and use your skills to communicate as well. Or maybe you're a science writer, someone who loves to write, or you're a journalist. And then finally, you could be an author. You could be writing books. All of these opportunities are opportunities for each of us to advocate for the ocean and to use what we have to stand up and speak up. So next, I'm going to go through a few examples of some of these platforms that have been really effective. And most of these groups that I'm going to mention, I am involved with, which I'm so happy to be, just to be there to witness the evolution of some of these groups and to see what kind of progress have been made. So first would be sports. And most people would not associate science communication with sports. But one particular sporting event that happens around the world every 3 years is called the Ocean Race. Now, this race has been around since the 1970s. In fact, last year they celebrated the 50th anniversary of the race. And originally the race was put on by, and the sailors would utilize these yachts, these racing yachts, which are the VO65, 65-footers. They're beautiful. Are there any sailors in the room? Yes, excellent. So this was the original way to sail around the world. But this past edition, the Amoca 60s joined the ranks, and this is one of the most cutting-edge, new, modern sailing yachts in the world. And these babies are amazing. They have retractable foils on the side. They literally fly through the water with the right wind speed, and they move extremely fast. So last year, from January to June, all the way through almost July 1st, these yachts went around the world in 6 months. Now, one of the cool things about the Ocean Race is that they decided for this edition of the race that they would uplift the message of the ocean and ocean health. And this is a photo of the chairman of the race, Richard Brisius, and I talking on stage, connecting with the teams that were participating in the race. And so from top to bottom, this organization, this sporting event, decided to uplift this message in every way possible, including putting scientific equipment on board on each of the racing yachts, which some of them had a microplastic sampler. A couple of other teams had an ocean pack to look at things like temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen around the world as they moved. And all of the yachts were equipped with onboard weather stations. So they were able to measure wind speed, temperature, all those things while moving around the world. And then finally, the teams deployed around 10 different drifter buoys in the open ocean in places like Point Nemo, which is very far from civilization. In fact, when they're around that part, it's in the Southern Ocean, the closest human beings to the sailors at that moment when they're crossing that path are at ISS, the International Space Station. So they are way out there. It's just amazing to watch these athletes take hold of science and becoming citizen scientists, but also sharing their passion and why they do what they do and their relationship with the ocean and how tightly bonded they feel as sailors to the water. So here's a quick glimpse. One of the other elements of the Ocean Race was hosting summits at the different locations around the world during the race. And you could just
It's about people, performance, and purpose.
We are urging all nations to recognize the inherent right of the ocean.
Ocean governance concerns every one of us.
Take what you learned today with you. We have the tools, we have the technology.
Let's end the ocean emergency.
Mas nós fazemos parte desse ambiente.
Our life source comes from the ocean. Our oxygen, our water, our food.
We need to protect this ocean.
Welcome to the Ocean Race Summits. There we go. It's a nice base for you to wake you up. So the summits were fantastic. We were able to invite policymakers, ministers, athletes, the sailors themselves, youth advocates, as well as scientists to join in conversation and dialogue around the idea of ocean health, ultimately leading to a concept which we call the Universal Declaration of Ocean Rights. And we were able to speak to indigenous leaders, different folks who are all stakeholders in the race to save and protect the ocean. From Brazil to Denmark, we were able to talk to all these different folks and get their ideas on how to implement something like a Universal Declaration of Ocean Rights. Now, one of the cool things that happened during the race, every stopover had a ocean life park where people from the local community could come and experience the ocean race, including our One Blue Voice immersive experience, which had a really cool holographic visual display that told the story of the ocean in about 10 minutes. And we saw lots of people, thousands of people went through this exhibit. But I'll use that image as a parlay into the next platform. That's a great platform for SciComm, public events. And so one of these, I mean, there's lots of journals out there at this point that are talking about science communication, but the Journal of Science Communication talks about the value of public events and how it can change opinions. It can really help provide gathering moments for like-minded people to talk about what's next. And through the lens of climate change, I think this is really important to bring more people together to be able to talk about how climate change is impacting the ocean. And one of the ways that I've been a part of doing that is through Big Blue and You, which is a nonprofit my mom and I co-founded 16 years ago this year, where we host an event called Artsy, where we bring together our community in Miami to a beautiful park called Virginia Key Beach Park to celebrate the ocean and to talk about the issues, but also talk about the solutions, and to give kids from marginalized and disadvantaged communities the opportunity to meet the ocean for the first time. By bringing artists together, the most creative minds in our community, we're able to convey messages and build that emotional bond with the ocean, from dance to mermaids, to kayaking, drumming. Of course, the science is there as well. Art, visual arts, mural arts, and so on. We used every medium possible to connect kids to the ocean and to show the connection. And on top of the participants who joined us at the event, we also saw a beautiful collaboration between the artists and scientists that we invited from local universities who collaborated together to figure out how to communicate their science through art. Now, the event is held at this beautiful island, which is a barrier island. For those of you who have been to Miami, you might know it, but it's directly adjacent to downtown Miami. Now, this barrier island is very special to me in a lot of ways, not just because Artsy is held there, but it's also where I attended University of Miami. The Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science is located there, as well as the NOAA Southeast Fisheries Lab. But back in the 1940s, this is what Virginia Key looked like. There wasn't much going on out there. And it turned out that around 1945, the county, Miami-Dade County, decided to establish a beach, a special recreational beach. In light of Jim Crow at the time, this was the only place for people of color to enjoy the ocean. And also, during this moment, if you look back at this picture, you can see there's a causeway. Back in the 40s, there was no causeway. So people had to fend for themselves to figure out how to get to this beach. Over time, it became a really special place for families in South Florida to enjoy a picnic. There was a miniature train, there was a carousel, there was all kinds of a dance floor, a concession stand. So really built out to a place with lots of memories for families in South Florida. Now, today, if you move forward, you see that the park is a National Historic Site, and it's one of the few remaining beachfront properties that has not been developed. And to this day, people now share lots of memories, but now everyone from all backgrounds can come and enjoy the beauty and majesty of the ocean off the coast of Florida. I love this quote by Vandana Shiva. She talks about nature's diversity is not only a source of wonder and beauty, but also the very foundation of resilience, innovation, and abundance. And I think when we look at diversity within the SciComm space and within the ocean conservation space, there's still lots of work to be done. We need more communities of color. We need more communities that have been historically excluded from these conversations to be involved. And it's going to take all of us to do that. I think the more diverse voices we have in this realm, the quicker we'll get to the solutions, because we need new ideas, we need new perspectives, need opportunities for every voice to be involved, because the ocean is the equalizer, the ultimate equalizer, putting everybody on a level playing field. So the next platform I'd like to talk about would be visual arts on a different level. Pangea Seed Foundation, based out of Hawaii. They were founded back in 2010, and they're an incredible nonprofit organization that brings together artists and scientists as well. You might recognize this picture. This is just outside the theater that we're sitting in right now. A mural painted by Shepard Fairey, a world-renowned artist who came to be a part of the Pangea Seed Seawalls Festival, which has happened all over the world in different cities, but Boston was the city selected in 2021. And I was lucky enough to be here for that, to physically see the whole operation. And it's incredible what visual art, public art, can do for messaging, and especially messaging around the ocean. Now, Pangea Seed combines art and ocean science, and they find a way to use the art to make it relatable, to make it memorable and motivational for people to elicit their own emotions about the ocean and their connection. And art also provides a really human-based, human perspective, personal perspective about issues impacting the ocean that are local, so that it can build trust and empathy from the viewers. Now here's a quick summary of some of the art pieces that Pangea Seed has facilitated around the world. You can see the bottom right there, that's a photo from St. Croix, where Big Blue and You and Pangea Seed work together to help encourage youth of the island to create their own public art. And then you might recognize the face in the top left, excuse me. That's yours truly. It was a part of a project to help raise awareness around biodiversity loss. And I've just had a blast working with Pangea Seed and all of the incredible work that they do. But their impact speaks for itself. They've worked with over 1,200 artists. They've represented 69 nationalities. They've produced and participated in 20 different countries, different collaborations within 20 different countries. And the engagement is amazing. And over 550 murals to date have been created in urban spaces around the world, which is astounding. Now, the final one of the final platforms I want to talk about is photography. And my friends over at Ocean Culture Life, they're based out of Jersey, United Kingdom, and they've put together a group of ocean storytellers. They're reaching out to creators all over the world. So for those of you who might be listening today who have a creative knack or want to use your own creative skills to talk about the ocean, this might be the place for you to connect. They have a book coming out in June, just before World Ocean Day, called The Ocean Speaks, which showcases so many of the creators that they work with and their beautiful photography. Here's a quick video from the founders, Tamsin and Matt Porteous, talking about the book.
Hey guys, right, today I am incredibly proud to announce the launch of our very first
book, The Ocean Speaks. This has been 18 months in the making, and it is testament to the work that our community does day in, day out to give a voice to the ocean.
Well, it's actually a project we've been working on for the last 9 years since first being inspired to set up Ocean Culture Life here on the coastline in Jersey. I had this wild idea to connect a global community of ocean content creators to help give a positive voice to the ocean.
There's over 45 individual stories in here about the relentless pushback that our community do, ocean guardians, ocean conservation, and everything in between. So if you get the opportunity, it's available globally. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. And I'm just so excited to be stood here talking to you about this, because it has been a labour of love, and I can't wait for you to see it, and hopefully you can appreciate some of the incredible guardians that feature within this and show your support in any way you can.
Excellent. So definitely check that out when it comes out. The final thing that I'd like to talk about tonight as I wrap up would be youth advocacy. And this to me is one of the most inspiring, most actionable, and most exciting platforms and opportunities for the future of our ocean. Big Blue and You has been a part of a program called See Youth Rise Up since 2016, inviting young leaders from around the US to come to Washington, D.C. to advocate for the ocean on Capitol Hill, speaking to their representatives and senators and their staff about ocean policy relevant to their communities. it's been proven already and spoken about a lot that we really need context when talking about policy, because it gets convoluted, it gets confusing, and having voices like young people's voices in that space is really powerful. Bringing them to the table, having a table for young voices to talk, to say what they're passionate about, what they need to see change in their community for their future, that is important. And one other program that we've been part of is called Plastic Free Cities, which we've seen tremendous growth. And it's where we talk to and work with young students who are from inland Miami communities, so Hialeah and Doral, which is where the beginning of the Miami River starts. And we're able to train them on plastic pollution understanding and just being able to understand what the status of plastic pollution is. And then from there, going out and canvassing and talking to local business owners. And thanks to our partners, well, this program is led by the Ocean Conservancy with the support of the NOAA Marine Debris Program, as well as Debris Free Oceans and Big Blue and You. We're able to then work with local policymakers and talk to these businesses about converting from single-use plastic products to compostables. And all it takes is a conversation. And this kind of sums up exactly what I mentioned earlier. And how do you have a dialogue? How do you start the conversation around change within your own community? And this is how you do it. And these students are clear examples of what can happen if you're equipped with some scientific knowledge, passion, and empathy, and wanting to see change in your own community. 67 businesses have been canvassed and surveyed so far. We've had over 142 student volunteer hours happen. And then there's been lots of training. We work with 4 different schools, lots of learning outcomes as well, where students talked about their understanding of plastic pollution, their understanding of sustainable business, and their comfort in public speaking also went up. And so it's been an incredible journey seeing this program grow and evolve. And we recently had another graduation from one of our cohorts of students, which is really inspiring to see these students just evolve and grow in their own leadership skills. So if you have any interest of being a part of that program or seeing it in your own city, or maybe an artsy program, feel free to join our Big Blue crew. That is our platform of all different types of ocean advocates around the world. We'd love for you to join us. So as I wrap up, I'd like to dedicate tonight to my dear friend, Jeff Bodeker, who unfortunately passed away last year, leaving behind a beautiful wife and 2 children. But Jeff and I had the opportunity to work together 2 years ago to film a documentary series called Ocean Invaders. Oh, well, it's not a series, excuse me. It's a one documentary that aired on PBS Nova last October. And so meeting Jeff was such an honor, and he really is a reminder of the power of storytelling and using your own platform, using your own skill set to bring stories to life about the ocean. And here are just a few photos of us in the field. We went diving in several places, but this is off the coast of Pensacola in the panhandle of Florida, where we saw lots of lionfish. But using the lionfish as a kind of like a hallmark, a cardinal that allows people to understand the balance, the unique balance and delicate nature of the ocean, really just helped bring about like ideas for what can happen next. And Jeff is just, he'll forever be a light in my sky, and I'm just so grateful to have met him and to collaborate with him. So what I'd like you to take away from tonight is that I'd love for you to become an active member of the global ocean community today. With whatever skill set you might have, whatever knowledge you might have, get started, do what you can within your own local community. And once again, the same points that I talked about earlier, these are all applicable no matter where you're starting in your journey. And finally, this last quote, I happened to ask ChatGPT for it because I love AI and the possibilities, excuse me, of what AI can do in the future as far as understanding science data. But this quote came up when I asked it, what's an inspiring quote about imagination? It says, imagination is the spark that ignites innovation, and innovation is the engine that drives progress. So with that, I'll leave you with one last thing. No matter where you're getting started as a science communicator, or if you're just considering maybe trying it out or being a part of this movement, well, don't forget to play. Play is an essential part of inspiring your own imagination, and then coming up with innovative ideas. And so here's a quick video of my favorite way to play, which is with a mermaid tail underwater. And I refuse to let go of this dream that I had as a child to be a mermaid. And every day I embody that idea because it's about having fun. This life is too short not to have fun. And so find whatever medium or whatever mechanism you can to keep you inspired and to keep you going. So with that, cultivate your imagination and let's together build a better vision of our future that's regenerative, equitable, and just. The ocean is calling. The question is, will you answer the call? Thank you so much. Let's see.
Thank you, Danny. That was amazing. Beyond the inspiration of your message, you're such a gifted storyteller and science communicator yourself, and just personally really enjoyed that. Thank you. So it's my role, my privilege tonight to take some questions from both our live audience here as well as our virtual audience, which I'll get communicated to me. I'm gonna repeat every question so our online audience can hear it, and then we'll have a chance to hear from Danny in each case. So why don't we kick it off? Anybody in the audience here have a question to start us off? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, okay.
So the first part of the question was more of a comment, just saying to Danny that some of the art that is part of one of the organizations that she's associated with or runs would be really appropriate for our Greenway, which is an area, a space right here abutting the aquarium. And then the question was, what do we do about microplastics? That's a big one.
Yeah, the two great points and a great question. So I think in terms of public art, Pangea Seed Foundation is the best organization for that type of work. They've done, like I said, seawalls, installations, and festivals all over the world for the past 10 years. I'd be happy to pass along your information, and we can see where we can go from there. And then in terms of microplastics, I mean, I've done a lot of work with plastic pollution initiatives. Most recently, I served as a judge with the Tom Ford Plastic Innovation Prize, which is a competition that started around 2 years ago to galvanize and call startups and other companies that are developing plastics that are truly, well, plant-based, bio-based plastics that will be compostable. It's an incredible feat, and it was a huge honor to be a part of that judging committee because Tom Ford himself is very passionate about seeing thin film plastic in particular removed out of the waste stream because it's one of the most pervasive, and some of microplastics and eventually come from that from the breakdown. But what's exciting about that is the Innovation Prize it's taken full hold. We've found 3 winners. The first prize winner is a company called Sway out of the Bay Area, and they're creating a new material from seaweed, and the innovation is amazing. And it's one of the main things right now that has given me the most hope around dealing with plastics. It's a big pervasive problem that we're dealing with, and we need all hands on deck to find the solution. But definitely check out Tom Ford Plastic Innovation Prize, and you'll see some ideas there.
So Danny, that leads me to maybe interject with a quick question. You and I were discussing this morning about the power of hope and solutions, and you touched on it a little bit tonight during your talk. And traditionally, the concept of doom and gloom being used very often to try to mobilize people and inspire them around ocean conservation. Could you just speak to the power of hope and solutions within the SciComm, I don't know, scheme that you try to portray and champion?
Sure. Yeah, I think the power of hope, I mean, that's what we have at the end of the day, right? As human beings in this very particular existence in our universe, we have to continue to hold that hope in order to innovate forward. And within the SciComm space, I think it's important that we tell stories that are relevant to the times and relevant to different communities of people, and hope means different things to different people as well. So that's why it's up to different science communicators who have different backgrounds to realize that and to showcase that and to speak to specific groups in a way that's relatable and honest and to the point. For me, I mean, I've had plenty of burnout moments over the years, and I think anyone who works in the space has experienced that as well. But again, how do you get up? How do you move forward? Get back to the basics of why you do what you do and find the inspiration in your own local community. And I think the best antidote to apathy is action. You have to find the solutions within your own realm, that's within reach, right? Not a lot of the things that you can't control, because we all know that there are just things that happen in this life experience that happen. And what are we gonna do about it? How are we gonna deal with it? And I'm most excited about the next 10 to 20 years. I think we're at a precipice where innovation is going to really change our trajectory. And I'm not just talking about like blind optimism or toxic positivity and thinking, oh, everything's gonna be great. No, there's gonna be a lot of changes, and a lot of things that we don't want to happen will happen. But again, what are we gonna do about it? How are we gonna take action in our own way as individuals, as communities? And go for it. And just we don't have anything else to lose other than our existence, which is very important. But we have to keep moving forward in every way that we can.
Excellent. So we have a question. Hello from Nebraska.
Oh, hi, Nebraska.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation, Danny. Current web and instructional designer with a passion for accessibility. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can increase digital accessibility in SciComm and science research. Tips, tricks, how to convince others to be more accessible in their comm strategies.
That's a brilliant question. So digital accessibility in SciComm. I mean, there are lots of new technologies that are emerging all the time that are giving us opportunities for new access, and considering, again, that intersectional identity that all of us have, there are different ways that we interact and understand the world. And so leaning on the new innovators who are creating different platforms, whether it's on an app, a website, virtual reality, augmented reality, I think those are where our opportunities are the biggest. As far as user experience and user interface, that's a particular area, especially as a digital creator, that I think we need more people to focus on, because that's what really determines the experience of somebody understanding something on a digital platform. A lot of times you'll see some of these places that develop these apps or develop these types of technologies, the people who are creating it may be ethnically monolithic. There might be just one group of people doing it. We need more people at the table talking about that experience. And that's why, as far as future careers and people who want to get involved, I think digital technologies will be the tip of the spear as far as getting science across to bigger audiences.
Thank you. Questions from the audience? Ashley McCarthy.
Thank you. Yes.
So the question is, how do you cater to an audience of scientific researchers themselves so that they can move beyond, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, move beyond just producing their work in a scientific publication and make it more translatable, digestible for different audiences?
That's a great question. So I would say collaboration. I know that many researchers, again, don't have the capacity or the time based on what they're already working on to actively do outreach, excuse me. I think really tapping into whichever creative platform they feel is the most accessible to them, whether it's a friend who might be a photographer or a friend who might be another visual artist. Like, how can you find these opportunities to collaborate? And then there are also, other institutions that are just craving and wanting to have more content that they could then translate through creative mediums. So it takes a bit of legwork, I think, for researchers that find those opportunities, but they're out there and they're growing. So that's definitely exciting. But I'm happy to be a resource, and there are lots of other science communicators. One in the room right now, my friend Justin Schaefer's here, and we're working really hard to help provide these opportunities and to work with scientists and researchers directly to make it easier to amplify and talk about their work.
So we had a good career question that came in from the virtual audience. Science communication jobs. So for recent college graduates that have focused on marine science, or I'll extend the question to any kind of environmental field, science communication, as you noted, is really blowing up in a good way. And there's so many opportunities. Tangible kind of practical advice for job hunting or for people that want to get into that as a career.
I love this question because I remember distinctly as a teenager saying, I want to be a marine biologist, which how many of you in the room have said that maybe at one point in your life? Yeah. At that time, it was a pipe dream because I didn't know any marine biologists. I didn't understand what they did fully. But I also heard from a lot of people who I would meet, random adults or whatever, they'd say, you're never going to make any money. You're not going to make it, literally to my face. So overcoming that first hurdle was difficult enough. But for those who are pursuing a degree in environmental science or ocean science, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find ways to find really good jobs that will support you. That's one of the reasons why I went into SciComm in the first place, was just trying to create a new opportunity, a new pathway that would help me make a living. As far as finding jobs now, thankfully, it's changed quite a bit since 15 years ago, where there are places, like similar to the aquarium or other institutions that really need people who have a basic and very strong understanding of the science, but then also have other ways to translate that science. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on camera. It doesn't have to be a television show. Again, it can be science writing. It can be sci art. There's all kinds of opportunities. So I would say start with looking at respected institutions that maybe you really want to work with, or that you've always wanted to tap into and help explain what's happening in that place. Reach out and just ask. Just cold email. That's the worst. The worst they can tell you is no. So start there. And then also research other science communicators in different fields, look up their story, look at who they've worked with in the past, and just see if there are similar pathways that you can take as well. That's a great starting point. As far as like a job board, I don't know of anything specific. Maybe there's someone online who could tap in on there, but yeah, it's really just about research and figuring out what space you want to work in and where you think your specific skill sets could be most well utilized.
I was moved actually by your experience post Rasmus, post University of Miami, with where you were doing that seemed to open your eyes to production and video production and all that work. And it was for a textbook, right? Or for a series of textbooks. So sometimes it just takes that type of experience, it sounds like, for you, because that seemingly opened your eyes to so many other horizons. Is that correct in saying?
That is definitely correct. I think, especially if you're specifically interested in filmmaking and storytelling through video, film production is essential. You just have to get experience. You can read all about it, you can get a degree in filmmaking, but nothing beats actually being on set and working with a film crew. And it teaches you teamwork, it teaches you collaboration, and yeah, and it's a test of resilience too, because a lot of times when it comes to natural history documentaries or a lot of science content, you end up having to be in environments that are challenging. For me, it's like filming a segment talking to a rock climber while rock climbing, right? And you're like, you're on this edge of this cliff waiting and you just have to deliver. So that only comes with experience and doing, things over and over again. And I'm just so grateful for all the mentors that I've had along my journey who have shown me the opportunities that there are within storytelling and different ways of storytelling. And in fact, that picture from Untamed Science, this is one of the reasons why I love Boston so much, but Pearson Publishing is based here, and was the author of the first textbook that we were able to create videos for. It was a high school biology book, which was co-authored by my friend Joe Levine, who I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but I'm gonna see him tomorrow. He's a marine biologist who then went into textbook writing, and then fast forward like 4 years after I worked with him on the Untamed Science project, he ended up working on a project with Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, and then invited me to be a part of that production to talk about the future of the planet and talk about the Anthropocene. And because of that connection, that mentorship, I was able to see another opportunity. So anyway, it's like a chain reaction, especially if you work in filmmaking. You just gotta get the experience, get in the field, and work with different crews.
So we're going to do one more question from the audience, if we have one, and I have another question from the virtual audience as well. Sorry, there's a glare, so I'm not seeing everybody's.
Danny, one of the things that you've done an excellent job of over the years is building a powerful personal brand, right? For yourself and vocal person. And I think it's one of those things that has stood the test of time. I mean, a lot of new platforms come and go, but yet here you are doing ocean science. And I think I remember you telling me years ago something you put in your life, right? And I think brand is part of the way that science can actually achieve that. Can you maybe speak to some of the philosophies that you think about when it comes to building a brand that sets the test of time, and then maybe some of the shortcomings of building a brand?
That's such a great question. So, question to Danny was really